And hello, everybody. Today it is Tuesday. It's 2:00 on the East Coast, and we are so glad you're here with us today. Revel Coach, I'm Alison Nissen, and I'm here with my sister, Marcy Stoudt. And today we are lucky enough to have Katie Schnack with us. Katie is a professional publicist, and we have so many things to talk about. But I really am going to go there and ask, is there such a thing as bad publicity? But before you answer that question, let me give you a little background about Katie. She has also written a book, and I love the title. It's The Gap Decade, When You're Technically an Adult, but really don't feel like it yet. So anyway, Katie, let's talk about publicity.
Yes, I love that. Yes, I love that question of there's no thing as a bad publicity. Okay, so you know what I feel like changed that is cancel culture, right? Because think about that. It's like, it's so easy now to be in the public eye, even if it's just digitally on social media or anything like that. And it is probably a bad thing, right? Like there's so much we have to be extra careful about now. I think simply because of that, right? Simply because of the possibility that we could be canceled and that could just kind of derail everything you've been working for.
So tell me about your journey into working as a publicist.
Yeah, so it's actually a very strange story. So I've always been in the book world. Like I was a journalism major and I worked at a TV station. And then I just realized that TV news wasn't exactly for me. And so I wanted to write. But it was just a very tricky time. It was 2008. So right after the crash and all that. And it was just chaotic. So eventually I did randomly meet my boss at a book conference. I was there to try to sell a manuscript, meet with the agents and do all of those kind of book things. And I met him, I won a contest and I met him and he was like, do you want to work for me? And at the time I was waitressing after previously working in the news and being a producer. And I was like, yes, like whatever it is, I will work for you. So he was like, he owned a book PR firm. And I was like, this is the perfect combination of journalism, which my background is, but also like telling stories, which is what I also love. And so I've been doing that ever since. And that was probably in like 2013 that we met.
So for those of us that are not authors, which would be me on this call, you may know that. So I feel like your team, when you're writing a book, you have the author, you have an editor, you have a publisher, and then a publicist,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what's the difference between the publisher and the publicist?
That's a good question. And my mom still thinks that I work for a book publisher. And I'm like, Mom, no, like I'm a publicist. It's the whole thing. So the publisher is the person who actually, okay, so for example, when I got my book published, my publisher was the person who decided to acquire my book, acquire my manuscript. He kind of did the first very initial, like, this is the direction we're going to go with it. And then I just took off running and wrote it. But then when the book is completely finished, bound, beautiful, like ready to present to the world, the publicist comes in and they do the connecting of the book with the media, right? So they're going to be that person that's actually going to get you interviews. They're going to get you podcast interviews. They're going to get you article placements and things like that. So the publisher kind of has like the beginning idea and then helps you form the product. But then the publicist is the one that actually gives you the media exposure.
That's great. That's a good clarification. I do love it when it's always based on like, my mom just doesn't understand what I do.
I know, right? Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
and I was like, it's been 10 years, Nancy, like figure it out.
Let's start with the basics. All right. So a lot of our members that we interview, they're an entrepreneur and they have this great platform and they're kind of thinking like, maybe I could write a book. They might be more of a DIY style publicist. So if I can ask, if they wrote a book and it's ready for, whether it's an ebook or regular book, what are some of the do's and don'ts? Like, how do you get started in your plan to kind of announce to the world that you've got this great book?
Yeah, I love that. Well, obviously social media now is very huge. So I would always tell authors, like sometimes I do consultations with authors a couple months before their books come out. And the first thing you kind of just like look at is like, okay, like your book is coming out here. Like these are the kinds of things you need to start posting on social. Like it's always a good combination of like direct announcements like, hey, I have a book coming out, but then also content that's related to the content in the book. So you're not just like one big walking advertisement that nobody wants to hear. Like, oh my gosh, if she posts one more picture of her book, I'm unfollowing her. So it's kind of like a mix of like sharing like, hey, and letting the people who follow you like, hey, this is coming out, but then also providing the people who follow you with valuable content. So content like they're, oh my gosh, like she just wrote this thing about parenting and I loved it. Like, oh, I should check out her book, right? Instead of like, oh, look at that book, cool. And then you just keep scrolling. So I think that's one of the main things is just kind of like making sure your social channels are clean, up to date. You have links to where you can purchase the book, pre-order the book, and then start just kind of planning through like what you're going to be posting when. And those are the things you can control, right? But then in terms of like the media and all of that, those are the things that are a little bit hard to control. But I think if you get your social media and your website and everything in a really good spot, then you can start going after some of those bigger media opportunities like article placements or like interviews, depending on what the subject matter of the book is, and all of that.
All right, so if I already have my social media established, let's just say I have, my people on my personal Facebook page. Is it good to start another Facebook page that's just dedicated to my author space?
I love that. So when you say personal, is it just like, oh, Alison is my friend that I met at whatever event, I'm going to just be friends with her? Or is it like you have one that people follow you?
Friends.
You definitely want to have the follow. So for Facebook, there's the two. It's the business page and the personal page. And the personal page, like I have both. I just reserve the personal page to like post silly pictures of my animals or my kids or whatever. But my business page is public and it's forward facing. And that's the kind of things where you post like more direct book announcements, more direct, like if you're featured in the media, you can put it there. People always ask like, well, I already have so many followers on my personal page. Why would I want to start all over? And, like I'm going to miss that. But what I do, it's not only like establishing your business Facebook page, because especially if we're talking about an author, like you are the brand, right? So like you need to have that in place. Like this is what you're selling you as the brand. So when I share something on there, that I also want to make sure that my like grandma or whoever who doesn't know to follow that page, I always just take the post that I put on my business page and then I slap it up on my personal page too. So there's kind of an easy way to like cross over between the two. But as authors and anybody that wants to like have a long-term career, whether it be coaching or like, as an expert in something, like you should definitely have that forward-facing Facebook page just to kind of for people to go and just snoop on you a little bit.
And I mentioned before the show, I have a friend who coincidentally her release is today. And we know, yay. So she has probably about 60 people that she knows that are closer friends that pre-ordered. And then we also know today, the day it went out, she also has about another 100 orders or so that are out there. And most are within her circle. Any advice for how to kind of make the launch splash, or like what instructions we should give friends and family? I've heard things of like, take a video of opening the book and then post it. But what advice do you have for kind of her circle?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say 60 people, but that's really like a great, like they call them launch teams and sometimes, and you can try to go and like get a launch team on your own, but mostly it's going to be people that your friends, your family, like your colleagues that are like ready to support you. And any author should absolutely like tap into that as best they can, right? So that a few things that you can ask this team to do, like what we do when we coach our authors through launching a book, we say, take that little team and like have like a newsletter that's going right to them. Like have like a little, even if it's just a BCC email, but just kind of like make sure you're like reminding your friends and family again and again what you want them to do. And so the main thing is like, absolutely yes. Like if they're down to post on social, doing a book opening, or just like posting a picture of them reading the book, making sure that they tag the author, that's huge. And the next thing too is just simply asking them to post a review on Amazon. And I know it seems simple, but it's like sometimes people, they don't realize how important those reviews are to authors in establishing credibility. So just asking them and then asking them again and then asking them again if you have to get that review on Amazon is always something that's really important too. But yeah, I mean, any social posts, and then also too for the author, having them repost the post too, which kind of like, is fun for the friend who posted about it. It gives extra exposure for your author friend too. So yeah, I mean, anything on social would be good, tagging the author, and then just really being like, and also, can you please post on Amazon a review? So it's important
That's
to ask.
great. What I love also the email. I know we learned from the girl that runs our marketing. You can do a marketing campaign, which it would be the email, like reminders to post and also write the review. And then whatever email doesn't get opened, you can resend that same campaign to the unopened. So that way you're not spamming everybody, but you're just spamming the people that haven't opened it yet.
I think that's genius. Yeah, because a lot of times, like from my own personal experience with that situation, like trying to get friends, family, like whomever to post a review or do whatever, it does take a little bit of asking. But I think just because it's human nature, right? Like we all have so much going on. But I think that since it's people that you're like close with, it's fine to ask. Just be like, hey, please.
Yeah. The hardest thing is knowing if they even read it yet, because you're like texting some people, emailing some people. So as soon as you said an email campaign, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Just do it through your website and then it tracks if it was opened or not.
Yeah, like usually at some point, if authors have a website, they've already kind of like had some sort of like sign up and newsletter. And usually like for me, the people who were the first ones to sign up were my inner circle, my people who actually cared about me as a person. So those are a great place to start to kind of establish your little launch team, but then like look at that list, see who else you can add, ask them if they can add, you can add them to that newsletter list to kind of even grow it a little bit more. And then just do like, just pre-plan like what you're going to ask and when, have a launch day announcement, and then like even do some follow-up like, oh, it was featured here, it was doing this, and if you haven't reviewed yet, please do all that.
That's great. Okay, new question or new series is when they are when you have one of your authors that's starting to do the book tour, what are some do's and don'ts? Like when you actually go to, like, just say you're going to a Barnes and Noble or you're going to a library or, some sort of place that's willing to host you as a book tour, but it's a business entity. Any good do's and don'ts for that?
Well, I mean, for that, actually, like when I first wanted to write books forever ago, I was like, I just want to like go on a book tour all over the country and like do all this. It doesn't really happen that way anymore. But there are still in-person events, and I think there are value to those. So the main thing I would say is like, if you want to do like a little bit of a mini tour, 99.9% of the time, it is not going to be funded by a publisher. So it's going to be something that you're going to want to invest your own money in to going around and doing it, because that just doesn't happen anymore. But if you do have like a little setup of places, what I like to do for my clients when they have a little bit of like a book tour, or I know they're doing a couple events here and there, is I always just simply go to the calendar listings in the towns where they are and just put the information up, because it cannot hurt, right? To be like, okay, it's up there. So then when people Google like, hey, what do we want to do this weekend? Oh, there's this really cool author with wine and cheese event, at the bookstore that we love. Why don't we check it out? So that's always something. You're always going to ask the bookstore themselves or whatever place they're doing it, how they want to sell the books, whether that be like, okay, like, are you going to buy them consignment? Are you going to have them available? Do I need to sell at the back? So just kind of having that like conversation about the business aspect of it. But beyond that, I mean, we always say like, it's, don't expect like a gigantic turnout. Do it because you want to connect with people, you want to meet them. But if only 10 people show up, that's awesome, and like solidify those 10 connections and, follow those people on social media. They'll follow you back, whatever you need to do. But it's just tricky, especially with COVID. I mean, things kind of slow down even more. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Just promote it any way you can. And another thing too is like, then it really just depends on the scale. Like if it's a fiction author, or if it's like a really big like public speaker who talks about like really relevant topics, if they're going to like Houston to do some wonderful signing, you can contact the local media too and see like, hey, I'm going to be in town. I would love to come on and do a segment about X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested in that? And like those kinds of things, it always can't hurt. Oh, and the last thing too is take a video of you doing it, have someone video, or just take really wonderful photos. So then you can repurpose those on your social medias as content.
Oh, that's so smart. All right. So I promise, Alison, you're going to be allowed to ask another question. I just have one more.
Okay.
You're giving such great insight. And what I love about how you're saying is I could instantly visualize if I were to publish a book, me doing it. It's like very simple. So for our platform, we love people that kind of give the like this is how you would do it. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate you doing that.
Good.
All
Yeah.
right. So when I think of myself as an author versus an entrepreneur, so an entrepreneur, what was nice is we opened for business, but Alison and I had a lot of flexibility in how we did it because we knew that, you know, how many people are coming here, how many people are there. It wasn't like this big event, you know, like we just did it. So we evolved and we've grown because of it. And we just stayed the course. Very fun, very easy. Or not easy, but, you know, fun with Alison. But as an author, I feel like it's like 2 years in the making to this one date of this launch, and then probably the flurry of activities for the first month or so. Any advice to kind of calm nerves or calm anxiety or anything around the author experience 2 months later?
I love that question. So often when I'm doing like pre-launch consultations or even just working with clients pre-launch, I love talking about that, especially because I was so grateful that I published my own book traditionally, because it gave me so much more insight into that emotional side of things. Because I don't care who you are, it's like you put yourself out there in a very vulnerable way, even if it's a novel, right? And even it's like, this is the kind of stories that I like, and like, I hope someone else likes it. You know, it feels very vulnerable. So I think that like just accepting that it's gonna feel a little bit weird, right? And like what I have found too is like even after like launch day, for us as publicists, we just say launch day is just a really good day to celebrate. Like go and toast the champagne and like have a party with your friends and family because it is like such a wonderful accomplishment. But the message and like the growth of PR and things, it goes far after pub date, right? So I think just like as an author being like, "Whoa, I did it, okay," and then like continuing to push hard after is so important. And then just getting creative too. Like let's say yes, like it comes out. There's always this like lull, like people finally receive the book, but then like they have to spend a little bit of time reading it, and then oh, finally I'm getting some reviews on Amazon. Finally, I'm getting some like I just had a girl post today on social media about my book that I don't know who this person is, and I'm like, oh, that was like a year ago, but she got my book at the library this week, and that's awesome. So it just like takes time, and I think recognizing that and just like owning it, it's fine. But as farther away from the pub date you have to get more creative about how you want to promote it. Because there's always still ways. Like, let's say my book was about like kind of that young adulthood experience. Well, then like when it was graduation season, I didn't do it. But like I should have been more like, hey, this is a great book for graduation season and like all of that, and kind of like use, and even though it was like almost a year after my book came out, finding those ways to kind of get the conversations going again can be really important. Or like if it's a novel, it came out in the summer, Christmas is coming. Hey guys, this is a great Christmas gift. Like, you know, this is something that people would really love. So those kinds of conversations, you need to think like long term. And then just, we always say in PR, it's a marathon, it's not a race. So it takes a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Katie, first of all, as an author, I love this conversation because it's all about, you know, selling books.
Yeah.
However, if you're an entrepreneur and you wanted to take some of these lessons from a book launch into your own business, either a business launch or like, let's say you have a new product or a new service, how might you be able to transfer some of that information into a business?
That's a really good question. I think that with launching a product or a business and launching a book, there's something similar where like, why are you doing it? And for novels, it might be just to entertain, right? That's fine. But like, if it's a nonfiction, kind of finding like what those talking points are, like why you're doing it, what conversations you want to have started. If you're launching a business, why are you doing it? Like, do you want to help women? Do you want to, cut grass? Or like, I'm looking at my yard, I'm like, I don't know, like whatever it is, like why? And then like identifying those points and using them beyond just the launch, like, oh, here's a new business, but why? And having those conversations. And then for social media or whatever, like giving content to people, like, oh, look at these like amazing grass, here's 5 grass cutting tips that you can use this summer. Or like, oh, winter's coming, here's 4 things you can do to kind of clean up your yard and make sure you're ready for the winter if you live up north. So kind of identifying those things and just expanding it beyond like, I have a business or I have a book, but like the why and what kind of conversations and how do you want to like contribute and help with your business or with your book, I think it seems pretty similar.
So those sound a lot like blogs. Like,
Oh, the little like 5 ways to, yeah, I know. So those like, especially, it depends on like how like literary you are or whatnot, but editors, they always want those like tips, tricks, things like that. So as much as you can kind of pull those out and use that, it's gonna be easier to get coverage. Instead of like, here's my essay on my love of lawn care. You know what I mean? Like we want the quick, like, okay, cool, but like give me the 5 tips, and that's what's gonna be better for clicks and views and all of that.
So if we stick with the idea of clicks and views and blogging, because blogging, so we have our author website, we have our business website, and then we use the blog to put down those 5 quick tips of lawn care for the summer in Florida. Yay. And so we put that out and we share it everywhere we can. We have, we try to do our SEO. I imagine with the authors, it's the same idea. If we can pull out a few things, like I know, I love when authors, basically they're writing to their fans, but they'll have things like, here's what my character's doing this summer vacation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those kinds of things are great. But Alison, I'm going to say like beyond the blog, like it's important now to take those things even more front facing than just your own website. Like you can always put content on your website, but what's like right now moving the needle so much is Instagram Reels. Instagram itself is fine too. And you can always like, people now treat Instagram kind of like a little mini blog. Like they'll put the picture or whatever up, and then you can write the caption however long you want, right? But when you're doing that, you can tap into so many wider audiences. And then TikTok too is so important, because like going back to this really random topic of lawn care, because I'm looking at my lawn, I love going on TikTok to look for cleaning tips, right? So like, let's say like you're a business that is all about lawn care, and there's so many people on TikTok who you go there for like useful tips. Put the 5 tips up on TikTok. You kind of have to figure it out, and it's a little bit more confusing, but like you can reach a lot of people that way, rather than just having something stagnant on your website. Now you can always put that information on your website as well, like if you want to have SEO and you want to make sure that people go back to the website. But I think that like utilizing social media, like Instagram Reels and TikTok, it's going to take it a lot farther.
Right. So I've got a question. So Instagram Reels and TikToks are both video of the person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. So, all right. That might not be on the short list for Alison and me yet, but maybe other, I just want to make sure, like that's kind of in essence, a similar thing.
Yeah, it kind of is. And I mean, like, are you guys on TikTok?
No, my kids are. I am to watch them.
To watch them, right. So like my neighbor, she's my best friend. She lives next door, and she would always send me TikToks when we started being friends. And I was like, what is this TikTok? Like, I'm not 12. Like, I'm obsessed because like I literally have learned to clean my house. I've literally learned so many things. So like when you think of TikTok, so many people just think of like weird dancing teenagers and like stuff. And there is that stuff there. But it's so like curated for you in a weird way that like the things that you see are so relevant to your life. So like you can find so much information on there. For example, I had an author client. She was amazing, and she was an older lady, but she cared for people with Alzheimer's, and she did a lot of great work. She's very famous in like the Alzheimer's care space, but like not nationally known. I don't even remember if I told her to do this or not, but she started doing TikToks and she blew up. And all she was doing was providing valuable content for people who were caring for people with Alzheimer's. And like, she would just like, here's like, if you're caring for your grandmother, pick her up out of the chair like this. Don't do it like this, right? And like all this stuff. And it was just like so many people who are on TikTok, who are on whatever, they're just regular people, right? And they like need information on so many kinds of things. And she found out that like there wasn't enough people posting about Alzheimer's and caregiving, yet millions of us are caregiving and providing for people with Alzheimer's or dementia. So she got like 200,000 followers in like a month, and it was wild. And then like from that, I literally pitched her as like viral TikTok like caregiver to like all, and she got affiliate TV all over the United States, whereas before we were not getting any responses. So it's really interesting to see like how you can get creative in sharing valuable content. She wasn't on TikTok being like, oh, my book, my book, my book. She was on TikTok being like, here's how to get grandma out of a chair safely. Here's what happens if grandma says this. And then people were like, oh my gosh, I needed that. Thank you. I'm going to follow. And from there, it just kind of really blew up.
Well, on a personal note, what is her name? Our mom does have Alzheimer's, and we could not find the content.
Oh my gosh, I'll send it to you. Her name is Tiba Snow. And so a lot of people who are in that field, they know who she is. She does a lot of she goes around to different senior centers and gives really big presentations for caregiving, but I'll send you guys the link because it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. All right. So we only have a few more minutes, but I definitely want to talk to you about your book. So it sounded amazing. So the gap, technically you're an adult, but not yet. Can you just give us some insight on that? Because I think I have a couple of them in my house.
Yeah, you do. So it actually, so it came out last October, but it really is so I'm 35 now, but what it is, it's I kind of wanted to write about post graduation of college to my first baby. That's the time span that it really goes through. So it's really early 20s, early 30s, because I found that when I was in that stage of life, it's really challenging in very unique ways, but there's so much happening that you're like, whoa, what is happening? What is happening? I'm moving, I'm trying to get a job, I'm trying to pay my taxes, I'm trying to do all this. And it's overwhelming. But then, when I was going through it, I didn't see a lot of people addressing it, right? And I know why, because now I'm 35 and I'm oh, me and my husband are doing lawn care, really, we're solid adults, right? 2 kids, whatever. And I'm too busy to think about what I did in my 20s. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to just provide something for people who are kind of walking through seasons of transition and seasons of change to be hey, it's totally normal. It's really hard, but you're going to be okay. And you got to just keep the faith and keep walking forward. And that's really what it was. And it's a book about transitions and change. And my husband and I, we moved to 5 different states in 5 different years, but it's also just funny. So there's all of that.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I feel like I could relate. I mean, to the moving, to the differences, you just kind of, it's a fun age because you just boldly go for it. And then, once you start becoming a parent, you're wait, why did I not have a lot of free time?
I know, right? Exactly. You're what was I doing? Why would I come home and be oh, I'm so exhausted from work. And now I'm what was I laying on the couch? I don't even know.
Was I worried about? Yeah.
I couldn't clean my house then. Now I have 2 toddlers. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I have found when the book came out, a lot of people who do have kids that are in the college age, they liked it too, because it helped them understand oh my gosh, I forgot how hard this was. I forgot how scary and confusing it is. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely want to read it. So I'm going to get a copy of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Well, we unfortunately are at time. So we want to say thank you so much for being here. And if somebody did want to get in touch with you, if somebody's wanting to, consider you as a publicist for their book or anything like that, how do they get in touch with you, or can you share some information?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is katieschnack.com, KatieSchnack. It's kind of a crazy last name. I do publicity for Smith Publicity. And if you Google Smith Publicity, you'll find us. We're a pretty big company, and we've been in business for over 25 years. So that's great. But on social, it's all just at Katie Schnack too. So I'd love if you could follow.
Be great. Well, thank you so much on behalf of my sister, Alison, Nissen, and we are so thrilled that everyone could join us today. And we hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, guys.